All right, OptaSoft video 2. This video is going to focus on the tech stack and the software developer kind of background and how we are building this app with two developers and utilizing the new AI tools. So I have a Cursor up here, Cursor AI. If you're not familiar with Cursor AI, it's a VS Code fork. This company Cursor, they forked VS Code as open source, right? And so they forked it and they implemented AI at a pretty deep level, at a pretty low level. But they do some really cool things. There's different levels of autonomy the AI agent can have, and kind of the flagship tool is they call it the Imposer, and it orchestrates a bunch of queries to LLMs, fine-tune LLMs for certain tasks. Like one's for code, one's just a normal chat, and one's for like diff tools. I'm not sure if they have any other fine-tuned models, but it's really cool. It orchestrates the task pretty well. But again, in this video, I want to go over kind of like our tech stack and how development flows work. I'm using Cursor AI, like I said. We have the front end written in some TypeScript here. The back end's written in Go. We have the back end containerized, so we can run it really anywhere we want. It's pretty simple. Any developer could come in and run our software, our back end or front end, pretty quick. It's set up pretty simple, and I really enjoy working with it. But what I want to get into is how, as a developer, how I'm utilizing Cursor to its full potential. It's kind of hard, especially when your day-to-day job, you don't get to use these tools, and to kind of really understand how powerful a tool like Cursor can be if it's utilized correctly. So I'm going to go through a flow of how I would work a fix, I guess. And so I'll pull up my web interface here. I know there's not much context on what the web interface is. That's going to be a later video where we show the functionality of the product. But this one's going to be a development video. I was needing to put a fix in, and I was like, why don't I just make a video of it today? So that's what we're doing. So here we have the development version of the web interface built out. We can see, pull up the terminal here, we have it running just locally. And this is that web app that I had pulled up in Cursor. So we have some nice dev tools or dev environment tools where we can just log in automatically. That's pretty nice. And so here we have the interface. And again, just a quick overview of what we're building. We're building a transportation logistics management application that is focused on a customer experience. There are plenty of transportation logistics management applications out there, but none of them focus on the customer. And everyone knows the customer's always right. They're important. Maybe we should build a product focused for them. So we're building not just the management for the brokers that do all these independent transportations, but we're allowing them to give access, a checkpoint timeline to their customers to message. They can message their customers, they can give them updates, they can allow the customer to go in and request changes to details in their transportation, to provide notes and information about pickup and delivery and transit and that type of stuff. So it's really enabling that customer experience, and it's going to allow these brokers to provide an awesome customer experience for whether it's corporate, individual customers. So it's going to fit a big wide range of brokers, no matter what like realm they're in, whether it's independent hotshotters delivering cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, or construction equipment, whether it's heavy equipment or like the physical material. So this app can really be utilized by a bunch of people in the logistics management industry, but it's going to allow them to provide that awesome customer service. So right here, we have a list of all of the transportations we have out. So this would be a broker's screen. So I'm a broker. I have all these transportations that are in negotiation. So negotiation is just an option that these brokers can do to like negotiate a price with the customer. So we can create a new transportation. Let's deliver my new Tesla model. We'll just get a Model 3. And then we can add notes. So this one's from a dealership. And then we actually have some demo routes up for the dev environment. And then we can create transportation. And then let's see where my Model 3 is. I think we have too much here. Okay, so there's my Model 3. So we can actually filter on like all the statuses, which is pretty nice. This page we can search. And so if we go back here, I can pull up my Model 3. I can invite an owner. So we have like a local database of all owners that have been customers that have had transportation. So we can query that, or we can add a new owner and it will send them an email saying like, hey, you've been added to this transportation. You can track it here, and it'll give them credentials. They can log in. It's pretty streamlined and sweet. But go ahead and add myself. That's a fake email, so don't worry about it. And then so now if I were to log in with that email, let's see here. I can pull up here, and my development web interface is running on our staging environment. So I can actually ping it from, let's see, staging trends. Let's see. Sorry, just trying to find the right, there it is. Demo environment. So I can log in with that email. I can see that new transportation's there. Pretty cool. Model 3 right here. It's in negotiation. The broker has to start the negotiation so they can get pricing. This is like an estimate based on the miles and the cargo that's being used. So we can allow for negotiation or just set the price to $3,300 here, which we can go ahead and do. Now we can assign a driver to that. If we go back to the owner's portal, we can see the transportation has been accepted. So either the broker can create a transportation, they receive a phone call or email and they have the details, they can provide it themselves, or they can actually ping the owner. They can send that owner an email that prompts them to go to this web page and create a transportation on their end. So either way, we can see from this owner's perspective that the transportation is accepted, and it'll remain in that stage till, well, I think actually it goes to driver assigned next here. So we can assign a driver. We can see we got the driver assigned status, and we go back here, we refresh driver assigned. So the consumer is going to be able to have a great insight of their transportation. What really inspired us was people getting their car shipped, because you have a lot of investment into your car, right? You buy a brand new car and you get it shipped. Well, you want to know where that's at. You want to be able to get documentation, updates, pictures of it. You want to know who has it. You want to see the driver profile, which is something we're wanting to enable, and be able to message the broker if anything changes. And right now, there's really not anything like that in the market. So that's what we're developing. Another thing that really stuck with me is you can get your however expensive car shipped and you have no updates where it's at, but you get something from Amazon or order it online and you get updates from FedEx of where it's at. It's like, why is that not in this bigger market of more expensive transportations? So that's what we're building. Back to the development flow. We kind of got a sneak peek into the functionality, but basically we're back on the broker's web interface, and we can go to drivers and see the drivers here. So we have the functionality to add a driver built out, but we don't have the functionality to edit. So that's what we're going to be working on today. And I'm going to show you that flow of how we do it with Cursor. It's pretty awesome. So what I want to build is, when they click edit, I want it to open a pop-up with all the driver's information on it before they can edit and make the put request. So I'm going to cook up a prompt, is how we'll put it. So this is the driver list. This is the page that we're seeing. So in this right side, we have the composer. What the composer does is you can provide it context of certain files, or you can prompt it, or it will implicitly do it itself to search the code base for context it doesn't know. So it's pretty awesome. But the more specific context you can provide it, the better it's going to do the task. I really like to explain it as if, you hear vibe coding. It's like more like I would like to have the driver edit page pop up and be able to edit to make the put request. That's very vague. It might work. I would say probably 80% of the time it won't. There's going to be issues. So what I like to do is to think of my prompts as my internal development dialogue. So I got to break it down into individual tasks. This really enables a lot better effectiveness in vibe coding, or the more technical term would be prompt engineering, which definitely I like more because it kind of represents what we're doing better. And then also kind of gives it a little bit more credibility than the cliche vibe coding. So what we're doing here is prompt engineering. And it really is prompt engineering, because what I found is if you provide the correct prompt, it can start to do complex tasks. It can start to build the code base for you very effectively. And one of the examples I like to give is I'll give a prompt and it'll do something wrong. Like it'll be 90% correct. And so I will, instead of like trying to prompt again, I will go back and edit that prompt with the details it needed to know not to make that mistake. And so what that shows me is, hey, this tool is capable of building what I want it to build. It's just a matter of me providing the correct prompt, which is a pretty cool thought. It's like, oh, this technology is there. It's just, are we using it correctly? So that's one of the big things I found, and it's been pretty cool just to kind of learn that and go through there. So we have the driver list here. This is the page that we're seeing here. This is a new page, and there are a lot of details we need to do. So like currently, I'm not sure this filter. I think it's just filtering the filter isn't working. We need to allow a activate button when it's deactivated. We need to allow them to edit and probably either remove this filter or figure out a better thing to filter on. I guess we can keep that. That's not too bad. But yeah, so this page is a work in progress. Some of the other pages are better. The messaging is pretty cool. Is this working? Yeah. So we want to add functionality to the edit button. So in the driver list, basically I like to be very specific in my details, and like all the information I would need to know as a developer, I like to provide it. So in the driver list, we need to fix the edit button functionality. Right now, the edit, and it does help if you put like the button name in quotes. Button takes users to the dashboard screen. And what's cool and what I learned from listening to the prompt engineers at Claude or Anthropic is if you're direct or mean or capitalize important things, the models listen better. So I like to like do like need the edit button, or like here, you need to fix this, make the edit button open a modal, pop-up modal. I like to be very specific. User to edit the for the user to edit the driver's information, you should be able to use the same modal that is used in the create driver. You should be able to use the same modal as the create driver modal. Hopefully, if anyone's watching this, they use spec speed. But so also like I'm referencing another file. So let's give the model context of that file. So create driver. So this is the create driver modal that you would see if you clicked here. The other thing I want to provide is I don't want to allow them to edit the password this time around. Not that the request from the database would allow that, but we don't want to display that, right? Should hide edit password. So another really cool thing I can do, since I have both code bases, is I told the model what I wanted to build, but it needs information. As a developer, if someone told me to do that, I'd be like, okay, I can do that. But what's the next question I'd ask? What request do I need to make? So we can go to the database and provide it the correct context of routes. This is the Golang database, and we have a request. So each user type has different request paths they can use. So we can go to the broker admin paths. And here are the driver requests. So I'm going to highlight this, and it actually provides the exact lines. And so we're going to need the get and the update requests, create a text file. The text files are a lot easier to copy from than like the prompt screen. So create a .txt file that only has technical documentation of these two requests, of the get request and update request for our front end developer. One thing the models do is they kind of go crazy with information. So I'm going to highlight only technical. All right. So this should grab the documentation I need for the front end. And this is like one of like the most empowering things as a developer, that instead of you having to do all that technical stuff of like, what is the request? Give me the format of the post body data. What's the response data? It does it all for you, right? So the requests are like mildly slow, but it's doing a lot. So I'll let it take its time doing that. So what's also pretty cool is you can like change. So this is we're back to the web app. I just kind of want to show you some more of the cursor tools. The agentic mode has access to the files. It has access to write and update to the files. The ask mode will only either provide like recommendations on what to update or just answer your question. And then you can change the models, is by far the best that I found. I used to always keep it on 3.5 Sonnet, but the actual auto mode's been really good since they've implemented it. So I just stick with that. So let's see, if we go back to the database, it has a kind of all that non-technical stuff that I told it to leave out of the text file. So we're gonna just go and copy this and throw it in the context. Gonna see like this stuff is like the tips. I don't need that. I would have expected the prompt to exclude that because we just want, like, I find it being the best when it just knows the information it needs. So we're gonna make sure it only has the information it needs. Cool. So here's the response structure and the request. Okay, cool. So this should be able to do the job. And what's really, really cool about our web app that we have set up, it will actually update in real time. So we can send the query and it goes in, it's going to do the work for us. Do its job, do what it's told, however you want to word it. It's going to go to work. And so we'll let that cook for a little bit, let it cook. But this is the future of a software engineer. I like to think of it as everyone's going to be a team lead, project manager, kind of like that role. Because the way if agents are set up correctly, the way I see them working is they will go in and do the development job and it's up to you to review it. And what I could see being a really cool future is you have a fixed request or an update, whatever you're making as a developer. It has the documentations of the ticket and the model generates like 3 solutions. And as the new software developer, how it'll work is you review those solutions. You can prompt it like, oh, this is going to be an issue, and provide it the context of like, this is going to be an issue because this other page, this other process uses that code and it looks at it, so you can't change it, right? But you explain that to the agent that's doing the task, and you provide that context and it quickly fixes it, right? If you have questions like, hey, have you looked into this to see if it's going to affect that, right? You can just provide that prompt and it goes in and does it. So the job really becomes a supervisor of these agents. And I think that's where software is going. There's definitely a huge human in the loop of that process for sure for the foreseeable future. But that's kind of where I see it going. Pretty short term. Like I don't see in 5 years how that's not the case for most, if not all, developers. But there's so much code to be written in this world. So many people have crappy code, like these like old companies. There's a lot of room for improvement, and I think there's going to be a lot more here. So it's kind of a cool feature, but the imposer has access to the terminal and it's complaining because I already have it open over here. So it tried to build the web interface even though I already had it built out. So that's what it's complaining about a little bit. Let's see. It's really nice too because it does all the linting. If you don't know what linting is, it's just like making sure your code's in the correct format, it's following best practices, whatever linter is set up. Another thing you can do, something I learned recently that I didn't implement, is providing LLM TXT files for your code base. So you can either do that like in like the header comment section of each file. That's probably the best place to do it. But what it is it provides quick context of that file for LLMs. So instead of having to parse it, they can look at that TXT file and see what's going on there. And then what you could do additionally on top of that, if you have that set up correctly, Cursor allows you to provide like a base prompt that always gets ran. It's under rules. So like you can provide it here and you could like have it always look at LLM TXTs and update them after you update a file with changes or stuff like that. So you could even have like a change history in your file that the agent's aware of every time. But you can really set up some cool custom processes and make sure it follows your best practices as well for whatever your company or development team uses. So it looks like it's running this. Let's check what it did. So you can actually compare like diff in the file itself. Looks like we have a new edit page. And so like one thing I could do is like, hey, like make sure the create and edit screen use the same modal. That's something I probably could have provided in the first prompt. But if I were, so for example, if I wanted to do a task like that, like I wanted to combine the create driver modal and the edit driver modal in the same module so they use the same code, right? Instead of like within that first prompt of like saying like, hey, use the same module as the create screen, as a developer, what like your actual internal prompt is, hey, before we do that, go to the create screen and pull that code out and modulize that. Modulize that so that we can use it in the edit screen. So that would be my first task is like, hey, pull like the modal screen out of the create driver type script file so that we can use it in another module. But for now, we're just rocking with this edit page. We can look at the differences. Driver list, we can see it, the edit route, some functionality to open the module. So we go ahead and accept it. And we can run to our, so this is actually, that's a live staging link. So like, it would be interesting if I would give it free range if you wanted to look at the site. It's just a test environment. So you feel free to look at it if you want to. But okay, so let's open up the dev environment. Go cancel. Let's see if the edit button works. Sweet, we can edit it. Okay, that's an issue. The GET request is not populating the screen. I'm curious. I could look at the code, but I like looking at functionality rather than parsing code sometimes. So if I click the edit button, I want to see if we're making that GET request to get the transportation details. Let's see. No, we're not. But actually, the original GET list should have all the information. Yeah, we should be able to populate the edit screen with the information from the list. So if you're not familiar, you should be. But this is the dev tool in Google Chrome, and we can see the request it makes to populate the screen. This is the GET driver list request, and it has all the information in there. So we want to make sure that when we click edit, it has the information already populated. That seems like a miss. So let's fix this with the prompt. When user clicks the edit modal pops up, needs to be populated with the driver information. You can retrieve driver information to populate the modal from the row in the driver list. Row, see, let it cook, kill that. And like if you didn't want it running every time, you could in the settings use that use that prompt that runs every time to make sure it never builds. There might be another way to disable it at a functional level. But yeah, it's cursor's pretty awesome. I love it. I think it's really cool to kind of figure out the little quirks of how to make it work better. But yeah, we're going to see if it can fix this last issue. And then I think that's a pretty good flow of how we're doing things. One thing I really like too is that we like being a full stack developer, I can go in and know where the code is, where the logic is in the database, and use Cursor to help like streamline my front end development. So it's a pretty cool stack we have going here. We actually have a mobile app too that we've recently switched from Swift UI to React Native with the idea that now we can all work on the same tech stack and utilize Cursor to its full advantage. And I think that's going to be a big move. It was kind of a painful one to switch this late in the game, but we did make that change. I should have some videos on the mobile app in the future. But I'm not, so I'm doing the database server and the web interface build for this. We have the other developer doing all the mobile application development. Sweet, we got the information populated. Yeah, before you ask, it is spelled like that, so that's not an issue. Cool. That's how we utilize Cursor. It's pretty awesome. That's our tech stack. That's how I see the future of software development going. As a developer, being able to utilize this tool is super empowering. I think it could be intimidating at first, but once you utilize it, it's really cool to see how much productivity and how much more you can create. As a developer, I think we should all love to create things and really utilize and be excited about stuff that allows us to create faster. And this is one of those tools. So I think there's a lot of other tools like this out there. There's Windsurf. I did test out Bolt and Lovable. Those are very high level. So like what I ran across there was they're great for prototyping. So I could build this with very minimal functionality within one or two prompts. But after you get past the second prompt, the Bolt and Lovables, they try to do too much and they spaghettify stuff. I think that's going to be fixed very shortly. But as of today, you really need to have a cursor in the loop where you can get more technical. You can provide specific context and details to how to fix tasks rather than a Lovable or Bolt. But for creating prototypes or very simple applications, especially ones without databases, like you're really set on Lovable or Bolt. I'm really interested into a Firebase AI tool. It seems like they might have their stuff together because they claim that it can do all the database development and front-end development and even posting to a hosting service all within that tool. So that's a pretty awesome promise because the bottleneck right now is we have these tools for development, but as far as getting to production, there's not as much tools in place. So like when I had to get the servers up and create backups and stuff like that, like that's all still a manual process. We can look at that stack later, more like I guess it's still a tech stack, but like the hosting stack, and get into those details because it's pretty awesome. It's a clean setup. We use Docploy, which is a OS. It's basically like the Docker application, but it's its own OS that we're running in a VPN or VPS of VPS, and it's pretty awesome. If I have webhooks set up, so I have different branches for my Git repos. So we have a main branch, a staging branch, and a dev branch. The dev branch is for local builds. If I push to staging, it's going to update automatically. So if those changes I just made, if I pushed to the staging branch, it would actually show up in the live website. So feel free to go in and play around with the website and shoot me any thoughts you have about it. It'd be pretty cool to get some feedback on it. The business side can be covered in a different video. This is just for technical video. Hopefully, if you're a software developer, you listen to this on 2 or 3x speed and it wasn't too slow for you and you learned some things. And if you have any questions, thoughts, shoot them below. I'd be interested to see what other people think about this. So, thanks for listening. Episode 2 down, technical episode out of the way. We'll have more technical episodes, more business episodes of how we're doing the business side, and then also kind of showcase the product a little bit more in this video series. Hopefully everyone has a good day.